And we welcome you back to Newsmax Now. John Bachman, and joining us for a discussion, John Gizzi, Newsmax Chief Washington Correspondent. John, great to have you with us.
Great to be here, John. Thanks for having me.
All right, happy to have you. It caught your new column. It focuses on Congressman Will Hurd of Texas and how he's bringing his CIA know-how to Capitol Hill. He has a unique background and was able to win in as a Republican in a largely Democratic district of Texas. And I love this quote right here. Quote, "You're probably saying to yourself, how on earth did this black dude ever get elected in a district that's 71% Hispanic?" So, John, let me ask you, how did he get elected?
He got elected by good old-fashioned shoe leather and the fact there was a perception, rightly or wrongly, that the Democratic incumbent had taken a lot of voters for granted, had not been in touch with them on their concerns. And as he pointed out, at the top of the list is, you guessed it, Obamacare. The Supreme Court may have said it's all right, Congressman Hurd said, but there's still people who are getting their policies canceled and people who cannot afford health care as a result of the changes brought on by the President's Signature Act. This resonated with voters and allowed him to win a victory by 2,500 votes in a district that stretches all along the border with Mexico.
Wow, so is the DCCC taking note of this? Are they running scared now?
Well, I would have to say this. I can only speak about the congressman's district, and I think he'll be a major target of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. I'm certain they believe he's a fluke. I certainly thought so until I spent an afternoon with him and found he's a very thoughtful person with strong and thoughtful views on immigration as well as national security. That was his background, being with the Central Intelligence Agency at home and abroad for many years.
So is he making a lot of friends up there on Capitol Hill on both sides of the aisle?
He certainly looked at, even in the embryonic stages of his career, as someone who knows about intelligence. And he talked about living abroad, operating under aliases, something I didn't know. When someone goes into action under an assumed name, it usually is with an assumed last name, but they always keep their first name. In case they run into someone, they'll say, "Hey, Will." You can't say, "Hey, my name is John." I didn't know that before. He also talked about his background in computer science, which is what he studied at Texas A&M. And he said after he met a CIA recruiter, he went into the science and technology division of the agency. But in his words, I started out wanting to be Q, but then I wanted to be James Bond.
I think that's a story we would all be dealing with if we were in that kind of career. Now, John, let's talk a little bit about something we like to call money bombs, which is a look at campaign finance. And today, we want to talk about Bernie Sanders. His official campaign haul thus far, over $15 million. And interestingly, over 76% of his donations were from $200 or less, or people who gave $200 or less. And that outstripped even President Obama when he was candidate Obama. This is a big deal for Bernie, is it not?
It certainly is, and I find it akin to Ron Paul in his early campaigns, getting small donations everywhere that add up, or even going back to Ronald Reagan when he challenged a sitting president in 1976. And I think before long you're going to hear stories about Sanders contributors as people who signed over Social Security checks or children who sent in their lunch money, because he is resonating with grassroots Democrats and people who normally don't participate in politics. That's a tremendous strength of his.
Well, progressives like to tell Hillary they want her to feel the burn. Is she feeling the burn, as in Bernie Sanders, yet?
Well, again, as Senator Lindsey Graham said, Greta Garbo rarely speaks. And it's easier to get an interview with the North Korean leadership than it is with Secretary Clinton. So I can't really answer that question. But I think if you see more strident attacks on the Republican field, and I don't just mean Donald Trump, you'll know that she's feeling the burn, as you say, John.
All right. I can't take credit for that. I think that was a progressive term. But I do like it, though. I think she might be feeling a burn. Maybe a second-degree burn at this point. John, stick around. We're going to have you join us for a roundtable conversation. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Ayatollah's comments involving the Iranian nuclear deal and much more. We're going to take a short commercial break. But before we go away, following that shooting in Chattanooga, should we be Should we be putting people in internment camps? One retired general thinks so. We'll have that and more on the Iranian nuclear deal coming up right after this. More coming here on Newsmax Now. John Gizzi is going to be back with us. We're also going to be joined by Tamara Colbert from the Citizens for Self-Government. She's going to talk to us about that, the Iranian nuclear deal. And also, one more thing we're going to talk about as well. Here are these reports about President Obama's plans for a massive database involving a lot of very sensitive information. Your sensitive information. We're going to take a look at that as well. Much more to come here. And also, we're going to take a look at this new period we're entering into with Cuba. You saw the flags going up today. Well, we'll see what that will mean for international relations. All that coming up. Our second part of our roundtable continues right after this.